since 1978, the NBA had two 60-point games on the same night. Shams Charania joins us to talk Embiid and Cat and more around the association. The Islanders have a Hall of Famer as their new head coach, and the All-Star game is inching closer. Pete Blackbird is back with us to talk all things Bucks. And Nick Sirianni is still the man in Philly, but he's cleaning house. What message does that send? We have the answer to that and more next on The Rally.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Rally. Brooke Fletcher here alongside Joshua Perry. And we have Dani K in studio with us. She is our host of Live on the Line right here on Stadium and the Tennis Channel. Dani, welcome back.
Thank you. Excited to be here. It's always fun to get to hang out with your friends. When you do TV with your friends, I actually feel like it's spoiled because it's like you just get to hang out. So crazy we get to call this work. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, you hang out with your friends,
and talking
make a little
sports.
money,
Wild.
have a great day.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's always a great time when you are here on the show. We're going to talk a little tennis. We're talking NBA. So, of course, we got to welcome in our guy, Shams Charania, for that. So let's get right to it with today's big trends. And we're going to start with the Bucks. They have started the season 30-13 and sit comfortably in second place of the Eastern Conference. But not all is well in Milwaukee. So for more on this whole situation, like I said, we got to welcome in our guy, Shams Charania, who joins us from Los Angeles. Shams, what's the latest there?
Like you said, Brooke, this team started off 30-13 right now. They're the second best record in the Eastern Conference, one of the best records in the league. But this is a team with Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton. They want to maximize their championship abilities, and they simply, from the roster top on down, had not responded to Adrian Griffin as their head coach. I'm told key officials on this Bucks organization, they realized from the scheme's perspective on both ends of the floor, communication with players, Adrian Griffin had simply begun to lose his level of trust and faith from the players, and they all, it seemed, to have started to lack faith. Essentially, he lost the team, especially in recent weeks. It was to the point in early December, I'm told, the Bucks approached Doc Rivers and had him serve as an informal consultant to Griffin. And now, a month and a half later, sources tell me Doc Rivers is the leader to replace Adrian Griffin as head coach. Two other coaches to keep an eye on still: Kenny Atkinson, assistant with the Warriors; Nate McMillan, former Hawks head coach. But they want a veteran coach in here, someone with championship experience, someone that can work with Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and this group to maximize this window that they have to win a championship. The Bucks know that they have to move fast. I'm told they will try to reach a deal with Doc Rivers or whoever their next new head coach is in the very near future.
Well, you would imagine that they kind of had this lingering in the back of their mind for a minute if you have Doc Rivers as a potential candidate, knowing that they have to
You're bringing in the replacement before you fire the guy.
Before it even happens.
Is wild.
Crazy.
But when you think about the pictures and images, obviously all over social media, showing Giannis drawing up plays yesterday, sitting there with the clipboard, that's not a great sign for a coach in the middle of the game. It's almost like they had an idea.
Yeah, I think they saw this coming. And it's a wild thing, too, because we set out here, we said this could be one of the best teams in the NBA, talked about the roster. You have both mentioned what they've done so far throughout the season, 30-13, sitting second in the East. Like, it doesn't sound so bad. But then you start to hear about, well, it doesn't connect well with players. It's always going to be an issue. And that's not something you overcome throughout the season or in the postseason. Been a lot of consternation about this Bucks defense too, right? Like, as much as we feel like they've got the offensive firepower, some of the best scorers in the NBA, they have not been a good team defensively. I think 22nd in the NBA in defensive rating. And so you're looking at a guy where some people would have even said his specialty was installing the defensive schemes and getting those guys to play hard on that end of the court. It's like, brother, we brought you in here and we kind of had a vision in mind that these dudes would be offense and you just had to get the defense right. We'd be able to rock and roll. And it doesn't look like that. Got to make a decision.
Well, and it was obvious this offseason, Giannis, he wasn't messing around. I think he's been very vocal, a lot more vocal than what we're usually used to seeing from him. Damian Lillard, this is a guy that is starving for championship here. And this is an organization with championship pedigree, with expectations to win the championship game here. So, I mean, that obviously had to add some extra pressure after just 43 games in, right, Shams?
100%, Brooke. They simply felt that Adrian Griffin was not going to be the coach for them to get them over the top and into the NBA Finals, into where they feel like they are destined to be with Adrian Griffin as their head coach. In April, May, and June, they just did not trust Adrian Griffin as their head coach. And like JP just said, defensively, Adrian Griffin changed the entire scheme of their defense from what Mike Budenholzer had laid out last year. It got to the point where players urged Adrian Griffin to revert their defense back to what worked for them under Mike Budenholzer. So, listen, maybe they're not going to admit it, but some of Mike Budenholzer, the departure of Mike Budenholzer, and Kenny Atkinson finished as a runner-up to Adrian Griffin, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, some key people in Milwaukee wanted Adrian Griffin to be the head coach, and now not even at the All-Star break, Adrian Griffin is out as the head coach.
Gosh, okay. Well, Shams, he did say that they are trying to move quickly. Doc Rivers and along with some other guys, they are the front runners there, but they're expected to make assistant coach Joe Prunty their interim coach. He's had previous stints as interim coach with Atlanta and Milwaukee there, so we'll see what he could do until they find a new guy. But you mentioned the trade deadline. Shams, February 8th is the deadline, and it's quickly approaching. The Heat, they have been the center of trade rumors with Kyle Lowry and his expiring deal being hung out there as a big trade chip. So, Shams, what can you tell us there?
The Heat today traded Kyle Lowry and a 2027 first-round pick to go get Terry Rozier from the Charlotte Hornets. We've been talking for the last year or so about the Miami Heat trying to go out there and find another playmaker, scorer, elite guard, and they've looked into Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Bradley Beal, and now they end up with Terry Rozier. Charlotte clearly moving more toward a retooling situation, and Kyle Lowry, I would expect. It's unclear he's ever going to play, but I would expect him to be traded or bought out so that he can join a contender in due time. But Terry Rozier now joins Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero. He gives them another scoring punch, playmaking ability player that allows them to really go double down on this championship window that this organization has this year.
Well, the Heat are in like a win now situation window. Yeah. That is not the case for Charlotte. So this is a massive, massive upgrade for the Heat. I think it's an awesome move, especially when you just look at his scoring output. He's tripling what Lowry was putting out there on the floor. And then we were just talking about defense, so it's the front end of my mind, just because we were talking about defense for the Bucks. When you look at Rozier, 6'8" wingspan. Kyle Lowry, 6'2" wingspan. That helps tremendously defensively. And yes, some of his numbers are going to go down because you have a ton of playmakers on that Heat team, but it's just giving you that added layer. Love the way Shams said that. An added layer of unpredictability offensively. You're giving them a more dynamic option there as a scorer. I absolutely love the move. And now you're looking at a Heat team that's extremely dangerous moving forward because they have so many weapons.
I love what you said about a more dynamic option there, because I feel like the one thing that has held the Heat back at times this year is the fact that they haven't always been healthy, right? And so, like, you're expecting some of your players who maybe shouldn't be getting as many minutes to be in there and play big roles. Some other guys who you know are your stars, you're expecting them to go out there and night in, night out, make sure that they perform like stars. But when you bring in a guy who you know can be an upgrade, can be that dynamic, I think it makes everything better. I'm looking at this Heat team right now, and it feels very dangerous to me because I think they are better than what their record says at the moment. And then you add a piece that makes you better. Like, it's going to be fun to watch down the stretch here.
Yeah, there's 6 in the Eastern Conference. They're looking for some answers, like Dani said, to get to a deep run in the postseason. But let's take a look at this from the Hornets' perspective there. So they're really just acquiring assets, right? You mentioned that Kyle Lowry, he might not be on the Hornets. They might try to make a move, but they're really trying to build something around Brandon Miller. And they also have their guy LaMelo Ball there. So just kind of what is the mindset right now of the Hornets, Shams, as they make these moves?
They're open for business. Besides Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, they're open for business. And Mark Williams, you could probably throw in that category as well. He's injured right now. Was a high draft pick for them. But P.J. Washington, Miles Bridges, those are players to keep an eye on going into the trade deadline. Miles Bridges came back on the qualifying offer. He will be an unrestricted free agent in the summer. He does have a no-trade clause. P.J. Washington signed an extension in the offseason, a new deal to stay. Both players have value. So, like you said, Brooke, they're in a mode right now, asset collection, retooling. That's their priority.
All right, good stuff, Shams. We always appreciate you taking the time. We will catch up with you later on. We're going to keep it in the NBA, though, because we got to talk about Karl-Anthony Towns. And he had himself a night, Monday night, putting up 62 points, including 44 in the first half. But unfortunately, his night was overshadowed by a loss in a post-game comment made by his head coach.
It was an absolute disgusting performance of defense and immature basketball all the way through the game. So it really didn't slip away. It had been there from the jump. So this is what happens when you have this type of approach.
All right, he is not happy there. And so just to give some more insight, KarlAnthony Towns, he was having an amazing game. First 3 quarters, fourth quarter, he only had, I think, like 4 points. It was obvious that they were trying to feed him the ball, really get his points up. And so, I mean, yeah, that's not the way that you go about business, especially when you're a team that's looking to contend.
They were so excited for him that they forgot about the fact that they're there to win a basketball game. And that is an immature way of playing. Like the coach nailed it on the head. It's quite embarrassing. Yes, it gets exciting. I totally understand. When you come out and make your first 8 threes of a game, that's jaw-dropping performances. That's insane. But it doesn't just mean the game is over. This isn't an all-star game. This isn't one of those like rec league games that you just get pumped up for your friends. Like, no, you gotta win a basketball game. And maybe that stuff was able to fly when they weren't winning basketball games. This is a really talented Minnesota team. You don't get moral victories around here any longer. This is a team that has really high expectations and really high goals, and they've been performing throughout the entire year so far. So to just have a mental lapse of judgment of the importance level of him breaking records versus your team getting a victory, I just think that they were putting too much stake in one over the other.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris Finch even said it after the game, right? Like, you ride the hot hand when you can, but you can't completely forget about what you're out there to do, which is win a basketball game. And Anthony Edwards had some very interesting comments in the postgame as well, where, they were asking him about what they were doing. He's like, well, we're trying to force him the ball. And he had mentioned how he hadn't barely shot the ball in the first half of that basketball game. Like, you've got one of the best superstars in the league, and it's like we're going to completely forget about that because we're trying to get this dude as many buckets as possible. That's crazy. But there had to come a point in that fourth quarter where they said enough is enough of trying to get this man as many points as possible because he was phenomenal in the first half. Third quarter was very good. Fourth quarter, you go 2 for 10.
2 for 10.
And you have 4 points. That is where the immaturity comes in. That's where it's really irresponsible what they did. And that is how you lose a game because you're forcing the ball to a guy who went cold. You got to go to your next option.
And that's where I think it becomes less impressive.
Yep.
Because, yes, it's so cool. Wow,
it was the least
so
clutch 62 we've ever seen.
Exactly.
Right.
If you're going to have 62 points per game in that game and then you go into the fourth quarter and you only have 4, there must be a mentality takeover in you if you want to be like that MVP caliber type of conversation there.
Yep.
It is a no holds bar, pedal to the metal. There's no way I'm losing this basketball game. You've got to have a sense of pride in you, and you just didn't see it, and it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Well, and you led by 15 through the first 3 quarters, and then you were outscored 36-18.
I'm with Coach. Coach and I are on the same page.
It's nasty work.
And listen, one thing that we do love about Chris Finch, and we've talked about him a lot on this show, is that he's not afraid to hold his guys accountable. He's a coach that's known for, putting them in his place, their place there, speaking his mind, and clearly he did that in the post game. And that, Anthony Edwards, he said it's not going to happen again. We're adjusting there, and that that's the first thing that he's going to make change, shoot around or practice, whenever their next game is. But so we're going to talk more NBA later on the show. We got a good one coming your way because we got to talk about Joel Embiid. He scored 70 last night, and he didn't even make the A block. So Shams, he is sticking around to look back at his historic performance. And Nick Sirianni fired both of his coordinators. So what does that say about him? Joshua, he has the answer. And what happens when you get Justin Bieber, Will Arnett, and Michael Bublé in the same room? Well, we're about to find out. Pete Blackbird, he's going to join the show to preview the NHL All-Star Game. That's coming up next here on The Rally.
You only get to experience the first serve of a new league once. Don't miss the inaugural first match of the Professional Volleyball Federation between the Atlanta Vibe and Omaha Supernovas. You could and should watch for free tomorrow, only on Stadium.
I don't know if you saw Joel Embiid score 70. Cat had 60.
70?
Yeah, Joel had 70 today.
58 through 3. Yeah. He had 70?
Yeah. So what did nights like tonight mean in the NBA?
Kevin Durant thought he had himself a night, and we'll get to him and give him his flowers in just a minute. But yeah, we got to talk about Joel Embiid. Putting up 70 points, became just the third center to do that in NBA history, 9th player in NBA history to do that versus the Spurs and help the Sixers get the win there. But what is it about his game that really impresses you, Dani?
Well, it's just everything. He can do a little bit of everything. 21 from 23 from the free throw line.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter where the guy is on the court. He can score. And you know, coming from the gambling degenerate, at the beginning of last week, he was like 5th on the MVP odds list at like plus 800. He's now on the top of the MVP board to win it because of his performances night after night. It's unbelievable. And this is not the same conversation we're having about KarlAnthony Towns. That team lost. The Sixers walked away with a victory here. Let's take a note out of that.
Yeah.
Honestly, the key for an MVP conversation, right, is who is so crucial to their team to win basketball games, and they were struggling for it while he was out. And he comes back. Now they're winning basketball games. He's just setting these records. He broke the record for franchise history from Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
These are names that are like cemented in basketball history that Joel Embiid is surpassing.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Like, I look at this guy, and it feels very complete offensively. And you mentioned the numbers from the free throw line. Shooting the 3-ball pretty well this year. And he played a physical game, too. Like, this is a guy to be able to shoot the way that he did from the line. He got to the line a ton because it was a physical game. Really difficult to stop. And I was marveling earlier this year because he had a run of games where, you know, he was getting 30 burgers and like 15 rebounds or whatever the case was. And it was like, damn, this dude's kind of doing it all. And then he goes out and he drops 70 points.
Yeah. With 18 rebounds.
Dropped 70 points. And quite frankly, like you look at the minutes that he played in that game. I'm not exactly sure anybody's ever scored 70 points in that small of an amount of time. Like, dude's balling right now. I don't know what else to say about him.
He left it all out on the floor, that's for sure. And so, I mean, the reigning MVP, as if we didn't think that he could get any better, dropped 70 points here. So we got to welcome back Shams Charania for more on this incredible performance. Just kind of your reaction when you saw him put up those type of numbers.
What's crazy is Joel Embiid didn't even have his normal pregame routine. He didn't even warm up before the game, and then he goes out there, scores 70 points. Just an unbelievable performance. And what's interesting is during the game, I'm told when he was at around 60 points, he was told by a staffer as he was taking his shoes off that the record for the Sixers all-time scoring mark is 68 points. And Joel then started to put his shoes back on and said, let's go break this record. So Joel Embiid was focused. He was ready to try to break this record that the Sixers had, but also get to 70 points. What's interesting also is that he's missed games so far, 10 games. If he misses 8 more games this season, he could be disqualified from getting an MVP award this season. So this will be the first time that 65-game limit has been put into place by the league.
That'll be the thing to watch. The biggest knock on Joel Embiid throughout his career has been his health. And mentioned the physicality of the game that he played and, the way he was trying to will himself up and down that court. Man was ready to clock out of that one, put the shoes back on so he could go out there and get the record. Is the wear and tear going to show up on Joel Embiid? Will he not be able to win the award at the end of the year?
Right, as amazing as it is that he's putting up these type of performances here, but we have to remember his history, his age there, and that they do need him as they try to make a push deep in the postseason because they've come up short in that area. But who is the best scorer in the NBA? That is today's poll. Scan the QR code or go to PrayTheRally.com. Joel Embiid, he is in the mix. Giannis, he is leading right now. But we got to get to our guy, Kevin Durant, because Joel Embiid's performance, it kind of overshadowed what he did last night. He put up 43 points, including the game winner. So we had the discussion yesterday about KD and where he stands in the GOAT conversation. And we had Jake Butt on the show, and he was very vocal, very strong when it comes to his opinions. Let's take a look.
You're the GOAT of looking for the easy way out. Know what? Bro, you were up 3-1 and folded, and then joined the 70-3-9 Warrior, the team that you folded to. That's some of the softest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, my Lord.
All because LeBron's out there with a wounded Kyrie and a Kevin Love. You're the GOAT of having burners on Twitter, bro.
We were not ready. Jake was giving, he was dealing all show long, but then he came so hard at Kevin Durant. We were like,
WWE promo with his Kevin Durant take, and it was one of the greatest things I've ever been a part of.
We're like, what did KD do to you?
And
Dang.
then KD drops 43.
Honestly, and,
he probably watched.
He probably did.
He probably did.
Had to have. Because, look, he didn't even start off hot.
No.
He started cold in that basketball game. He missed his first 6 threes, then comes out and hits 8 for 16 after that. And what's actually even more impressive, in my opinion, about this performance is it's on the second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah, yep.
And you were down, and you fought back for the victory. I hate circling back to what Kat did, but there's just so many other performances of the night that are more impressive just because they're able to get their team a victory.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. We haven't even talked about the Jays up there in Boston and the way that they played last night too. Those dudes are balling. It's been some really impressive basketball, but to your point, what Kevin Durant did under the circumstances, phenomenal. And quite frankly, he has an opportunity to change the narrative around him, because the thing that Jake said, and I don't want this to get lost, it's the reason people don't want to put him in the GOAT conversation, is because he fled and joined an active dynasty to get his rings. And if he can be the reason why a team, his own team, the team that he is the alpha guy on, can win a championship, whole narrative changes.
And that's why he was brought to Brooklyn. That's why he was brought to the Suns. They are looking for a championship there in Arizona. And so now that he is healthy, putting up numbers like this, you makes you wonder why they couldn't get it done there. And also a game winner, just the cherry on top. Not a bad night for KD there.
It's literally the whipped cream on the top for sure. Look, we were talking about winning championship rings. The Philadelphia Eagles had huge high hopes to do just that. It didn't happen this season. So yeah, there's some big problems in Philly, but is Nick Sirianni the one to fix it? That's what we're going to discuss next. Let's get to summer weather, shall we? Let's get to Australia, where it's still quarterfinal action happening on this lovely Tuesday evening. Let's talk about the women's top half of the draw, because all the big names completely out of it. Yep, you've got a 19-year-old in Linda Noskova who's taking on Diana Yastremska, who after after her last match said she is quite tired, not looking too good. It looks like the Noskova, who beat the world number 1 Iga Swiatek, should advance there. But the one you need to keep your eye out for, you probably haven't heard too much about her, Jung Chin-Wen. She made it all the way to this stage at the U.S. Open last year, and now she's made it to the quarterfinal stage again. There's a good chance she makes it all the way to the final because that top half of that draw is wide open. But let's talk about the men's quarterfinals here because they're absolutely insane. Hubie Hurkacz and Daniil Medvedev. Hurkacz actually leads that head-to-head and actually has beaten Medvedev the last 2 times he's played him in straight sets. That's wild to think, especially when you talk about just how dominant Medvedev has been on this hard court surface. The other one, Carlos Alcaraz, taking on Sasha Zverev. Wow, talk about a brutal matchup. Zverev actually leads that head-to-head 4-3, but Carlos Alcaraz has hardly had to break a sweat at this tournament. Maybe a little scares here and there, but not nearly what Sasha Zverev has had to go through. A 5-set thriller in his last match against Cam Norrie to set up this meeting with Carlos Alcaraz. Sasha Zverev, it's a great story, coming back from injury, right? We saw a lot of it on Breakpoint Season 2 on Netflix. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you do so. But Carlos Alcaraz looks like he is just going to continue to score throughout these slams. It's absolutely going to be a fun night of action. So if you're a late night owl, make sure you check it out.
Danny, good stuff. I have been watching Breakpoint Season 2. I started it a few nights ago. Have you? I know you'll watch tennis from time to time.
I will. Fun sport. I was going to get on that documentary, too, and I started watching the golf one. I can't remember what it was called, but yes, thank you. I've enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch the Australian Open, cheering on Coco Gauff. Bring it back to America. All right, let's talk some football here because there's been some changes. The coaching personnel there in the NFL, specifically with Philadelphia. They parted ways with their offensive coordinator and Brian Johnson. It looks like Nick Sirianni, he is going to stay. They are now looking to replace both coordinators. What sort of message do you think Sirianni is sending here, JP?
I'm not exactly sure, if I'm being completely honest. We talked about Nick Sirianni as one of the rising young head coaches a year ago. And the thing that we didn't calculate into that is one of the things that I brought up throughout the season when I was talking about the Eagles and some of their struggles. They had 2 coordinators on the sidelines that eventually became NFL head coaches. Jonathan Gannon over there with the Cardinals, Shane Steichen with the Indianapolis Colts. And so you bring in a couple of new coordinators and things do not work out. I think this is a pivotal year for Nick Sirianni because he's got to go and find the guys that can get them back to the level of performance that they were once at. I think one of the challenges when you hire a young coach, though, is the coaching tree, the circle that they've been in, a little bit smaller than some of the veteran guys. You probably got a little bit less cachet when it comes to hiring the right guy to do the job. So he's going to have to market some of the weapons that he has. Jalen Hurts, what they have in that wide receiver room, what they have in the top, is a really good roster.
Yeah.
They're going to have to do a little bit of persuading for the defensive side of the ball. I think they've got some good young players, but they were in a little bit of transition this year. Some guys got banged up. Ultimately, if he does not hit on these coordinators, I'm not exactly sure how long he's going to be in Philly.
Things fell apart very quickly down the stretch of the season there. You could see it even on the sidelines during the game. Jalen Hurts, he went from an MVP candidate to throwing 15 interceptions, a career high for him. So obviously looking for a coordinator that has an offensive scheme that can really elevate Jalen Hurts and this offense here. But how quickly can they turn things around? How deep is this team right now in their struggles?
Yeah, I think if they get the right people in there to be the architect of both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball, they can get things turned around. I'm looking at a lot of the same players that they were really successful with. I mean, honestly, it's a team that got off to the hottest start in the NFL this year. It's not like they're super far away, but certainly there were players that lost belief in what they were doing philosophically and schematically toward the end of the year. I think if they get the right voices scheming up on either side of the ball, they can be right back in it.
All right, well, speaking of coordinators, let's take it to the college level down in Baton Rouge because LSU, they made a surprising hire. They decided to promote their quarterback and wide receiver coaches as co-offensive coordinators. Now, are you surprised that Brian Kelly didn't make a splashier hire at this position?
Yes. First off, LSU has got money to spend. They gave Brian Kelly a ton of it. You knew part of, and this is what happens when a lot of coaches get jobs now. Part of the negotiation is I need the biggest assistant hiring pool that I can get in terms of finances so I can go make the splash hires when it comes to coordinators. So for me, I'm thinking that Brian Kelly's a guy who would have his sights on going out and getting whoever he feels like is the best in the game outside of Baton Rouge already and bringing them down there. Part of the issue, though, is BK is a difficult dude to work with just in terms of personality. That's part of it. The offensive coordinator that he had on staff left to go back to Notre Dame. It's not like he had to fire a guy at that position. Number 2, BK is not known as the most dynamic or interested recruiter in the game. So you go there knowing that, well, the head coach ain't going to be helping us out a ton of recruiting. I got to be the guy to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and that's a tough spot to be in as a coordinator. So I understand how he got here. It's just shocking that when you're LSU, you don't go out there and make the splash.
And it makes you wonder, you mentioned a splash here, hire Tommy Rees. He has history with Brian Kelly, and so obviously with the changes there at Alabama, maybe not go to Baton Rouge.
Tommy Rees is coaching tight ends right now. It seemed like a lot of people that were looking to maybe make a splash at coordinator decided not to go with Tommy Rees. So I don't know if they're trying to tell us something about him there.
All right, well, the NHL All-Star Game, it is heading to Toronto next week, and if there is anything we know, it's that wherever Justin Bieber goes, Pete Blackbird, he is going to follow. We're going to ask him why on the other side of the break.
If I was looking at the analytics, our team was giving a lot of puck possession in our D zone, and the last 7 years I've been thinking about what I want to do. So I do believe in what I'm trying to bring here. We don't like analytics when you're in the bottom of the league, and we like it when we're in the top of the league. So that's pretty simple. Analytics. We don't like analytics when you're in the bottom of the league, and we like it when we're in the top of the league. So that's pretty simple.
Welcome back to the rally. Time for a little bit of hockey there. Kudos by the people upstairs for the way that they cut that too. But to talk a little bit about this hockey, we're going to bring in our guy Pete Blackbird, host of What Chaos podcast, and one of our great friends, NHL insider here. And Pete, I want to jump right into it. We heard new Islanders head coach Patrick Waugh there. You giving him a pass for the way that he was saying analytics?
Yeah, I mean, it's entertaining. It's very funny. And listen, if I'm in no position to judge anybody for the way that they mispronounce something or misstate something based off of what I said last week. So, yes, he gets a pass from me for sure.
Oh, yeah, man. Have you recovered from last week? Are you good, bro?
The internet. The internet is not going to let me forget that.
Yep,
but it was
good.
Very fun.
They say you never want to be the main character on the internet, and for like 8 hours there, Pete Blackburn was the main character on the internet. But Wah won his first game there. So what are you expecting from him moving forward?
I'm expecting fire. I'm expecting entertainment. I mean, even the press conference right there was entertaining. For better or for worse, Patrick Waugh is extremely entertaining. And, I'm excited that he's back behind an NHL bench. It's been about 7 years since we've last seen him there. And I really think that the Islanders are probably a good fit for him, just in the sense that, he left the Colorado Avalanche because he wanted to have a say in the roster. He was a bit frustrated, so he stepped down from his post. He knows that he's not going to have a say in the roster with Lou Lamoriello in charge with the Islanders. And I think the Islanders could use a spark. I think that they could use an identity shift. Lane Lambert was not getting the most out of that group. I do believe that Patrick Waugh will be able to get the most out of that group, light a fire under them. It's just a question of how long it lasts before maybe there's a clash of personality between Patrick Waugh and Lou Lamoriello. I think it's inevitable, but how long does it last?
All right, Pete, the Coyotes, they became the first team in NHL history to score a power play goal without a shot thanks to Penguins' own goal here. So what's the most embarrassing moment you've seen on the ice?
Scoring an own goal is probably scoring an own goal on an empty net is probably one of my favorite treats as a hockey fan. You get one every few years, every handful of years, and it's always hilarious. So the Penguins doing that last night was amazing, especially considering that sequence involved two of their better players and more franchise icons in Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin. So very, very funny. I think that this season has given us several funny moments, that being one of them. And then a week ago, Rasmus Dahlin played the puck while standing in the penalty box to get another penalty. Like, that stuff are probably the two most embarrassing moments that you could have as an NHL player, but very funny as a viewer.
Absolutely hilarious. Love to see it. Let's talk about Corey Perry for a second, because the Oilers just signed the veteran forward $775,000 deal for the rest of the season. And this is a team that's rolling. So how do you see Perry fitting into the equation?
Yeah, some people are going to say, if it isn't broke, don't try to break it. And I think I like that saying. And I'm not in that camp when it comes to Corey Perry and the Edmonton Oilers, because the Oilers obviously are going for it. They're trying to put together a deep playoff run, trying to win their first Stanley Cup with Connor McDavid and company. And Corey Perry's a guy that's been there before. He's won Stanley Cup. He's been on teams in the past handful of years on contenders as sort of a depth piece. And I think he's going to be a depth piece for the Oilers. They need those kind of guys. They need that veteran presence. I mean, and listen, you can say whatever you want about Corey Perry and the way that his tenure ended in Chicago, but he was contributing for the Blackhawks early on in the season. And I think that he's going to be on his best behavior. He knows that he's going to have kind of the microscope on him, and all he needs to do is just play a role and contribute, and I think that he can do that.
All right, Pete, trade deadline a little bit over a month away. Who is a team that needs to make a big splash?
Well, I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be in the market, but for a team that I think needs to improve in order to kind of fill the gaps, the Colorado Avalanche are near the top of that list for me, because I think that they need a center. I think they need depth help, and they need goaltending help, because Alex Georgiev is playing way too many games, and he's not looking all that amazing. And this team does have flaws, but their best players like Nathan McKinnon, like Cale Makar, like Mikko Rantanen, those guys are playing their best hockey this year. And the Colorado Avalanche kind of need to capitalize on that. And I think that they're a team that can win and can contend this year, but they need to improve, and they can do that at the deadline.
All right, Pete, the All-Star Game captains were announced over the weekend, and we got quite the group here. Justin Bieber, that's pretty obvious. He's a big fan. Will Arnett, Tate McRae, our girl, and Michael Bublé. So what do you think of this quartet here?
I mean, I think it's very predictable. On our podcast, we tried to predict who the captains were going to be about like a month and a half ago, and we got 3 out of the 4. I mean, the NHL, it's very easy to pinpoint like which celebrities like hockey, which celebrities have ties to Toronto, ties to Canada, and which ones the NHL are going to go after. And so the list isn't that surprising. But that being said, like, the NHL is typically pretty bad about getting like finger on the pulse celebrities. So having Bieber, having Tate McRae, those are two like very, very significant and very relevant pop stars. So I give credit to the NHL for getting them on board.
Well, you're a well-rounded guy, Pete. What do you think of this year's Baseball Hall of Famers?
I love Adrian Beltre. He's one of my favorite guys to watch. Todd Helton, I grew up watching him too. Like, he's just a really solid all-around player. So, like, I like all three of those guys, but Adrian Beltre is the one that excites me the most, not only because he's a Red Sox, but he was just, like, a pretty understated star for a long time and just one of the most fun guys to watch. Whether it was hitting home runs, whether it was somebody messing with his head and him getting pissed off and going after teammates. Like, Adrian Beltre was entertainment from start to finish, and I'm so glad that he's getting into the Hall.
You know, you and Beltre, the thing you have in common, really fun guys to watch. Pete Blackburn, always appreciate your time when you join us on the Rally. Take care.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's time to take it back to the NBA. You can see we got the confidence meter right here. Shams, he gave us some insight into the Heat, but let's break down the middle of the Eastern Conference, Dani.
Well, let's talk about Miami first, because we talked about Rozier at the top of the show, and I already kind of gave it away on where I think this confidence meter should be with this team, and I've never used this, and I knew that was going to happen. I've never done it.
Oh, no, it's
no
okay.
idea. Let me tell you, it's high confidence. We'll come sit back down. I broke it. I told you guys before the show I'd never used it, and that's what happened.
She's
I'm just
hearing
kidding.
it.
This is
She's not here.
1,000% my fault. It's the nails. It's the nails. But let me tell you, here is the confidence meter for, this is how we're going to do it. This is the confidence meter for Miami. Really high, okay? I absolutely love it. I love the addition of Rozier. You guys tell me, you agree?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
I'm totally there with you. Like I said earlier in the show, I think this is a better team than what the record reflects. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they were able to put it together and make a run later down the line of the season, so I like it.
And then Jaime, he has been outstanding for them, but he's missed the last 4 games, so having him out there, Jimmy Butler back, like that is needed in order for this team to make a run.
Okay, come here, Sam. Okay, a little bit lower confidence, yet still a lot of confidence. It's for Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton, when you got a superstar and you can build around him. Now you got Pascal Siakam in the mix. Tyrese Halliburton has been questionable in these games in the sense that he just hasn't been in them enough. But we cannot wait to see more of Halliburton and Siakam on the court together. You've got this amazing pairing that could come to fruition, and that's why my confidence meter is still quite high. I can't chug that much water, but it's still quite high.
Defense, though, like that's my biggest thing about them. And you know, we've talked about it. I feel like they can outscore anybody in the NBA, but the idea that their defense has been what it has been this year is something that frightens me when it comes to their ability to win in the postseason.
Well, and it's great that they were able to still hang on to a lot of young stars that have bright futures. So then you have Tyrese, and then you got Pascal Siakam. So, like, this is a team that's in rebuild mode. They've already shown signs of life there and what this team can do. So it's only up from here.
I
think our board's back.
I can't chug that.
I know, I don't want you to have
as where I need to put the net.
Just a little drag and drop. Just a little drag and drop.
Dropping, and now we've all of a sudden been educated. I'm somewhere right here. Well, you know what? We'll just put all the teams where I think they should go. We'll get to the Magic in a second. Okay, so New York Knicks. I love this OG Anunoby and Brunson pairing. When they're on the court together, absolutely fantastic. However,
go ahead.
It's here because their defense is kind of gone now. That Knicks defense that was the best of 2024 is not the same. So therefore, I've got a medium shtick here, but I do like the pairing when they're both on the floor, but I'm worried about their defense.
I have never felt great about the Knicks, like as you know, as we've talked about them over the last couple of years, it just has not felt like they have opened up a true window to make a run at things. I agree with what you're saying there, but my lack of confidence for different reasons, I just don't see it with them.
Yeah, there's just nothing flashy right now with them. And I just, with OG and Jalen Brunson, both of those guys, like they are making, they're really adding to this team, but I'm not feeling very confident in them.
And it's a really good thing we went back to the confidence meter, not the water, because I would have had to chug that whole entire thing.
Well, damn.
Yeah, it's down there. It's down there pretty low. Oh, you know what? Fine, JP, I'll just move it to here. Because, yes, they've been dealing with injuries. They've got Franz Wagner back, and yes, that was part of the issues for their woes, but they started so strong, and lately just have completely lost it. And yes, while most of it is injury related, my confidence meter based off of what we have seen recently, yes, they got a couple wins in there, but it just hasn't looked so great since December. So they're low on my confidence meter.
I'm a little bit, just a slight tad bit higher than you are.
Okay, so I can move it slightly.
No, you don't have to move it whatsoever.
How it works.
Because I agree with you on the injuries. I think once they're healthy, they're going to play much better. The biggest question for me is when you have the amount of youth that they have, it's either they rebound and they forget that anything ever happened, there was never a rough patch, or they get in their feelings and they think about it too much and they end themselves because they're young and they don't know how to respond to the adversity.
Adversity.
the right way.
Look what you did there. Use the word adversity.
What was the word?
I don't know. I knew you were going to ask me. The vicissitude.
Boom.
Vicissitude?
There we go.
Look
We would
at us.
like to
It's a
put-
fancy word we learned, Dani.
Pretend this is my face. My confidence meter on me is all the way down here after this
Dani.
segment because
come on.
they're going to kick me off.
My
Listen,
confidence,
no,
my
how to use
confidence in you is off the charts.
You know what?
And same
I-
thing
You're
with
not
you.
the first one that messed up with the confidence meter. I've done it. Joshua has done it.
I've
It's like a
messed up
rite of
a lot of
passage
things
here on the
around
rally.
here. So
I know, but I tried to blame upstairs, and it's really not upstairs. It's me. It's 1,000%.
it happens. It's live TV, people. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk The Rock. He is joining WWE's board of directors. So who would be on our board? Well, we're going to let you know on the other side of the break. Stick around.
Back to the rally. The Rock just got a really sweet deal with the WWE. He's joining the board, and in return, he's going to receive $30 million in stock in the company, plus exclusive rights to the Rock name. So, how do you think he's going to be as a board member?
I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding, like what he's been able to do, what he did for WWE there, and then, I mean, his acting career, what he's done, with football and the XFL there. So I think that's a good idea.
I think he is I'm not exactly sure from like a technical standpoint what he does, but he is a mind that understands how the thing is supposed to work.
Yes.
He is a notable person who can help build intrigue. Like, it feels like what he can offer is always going to be valuable. Like, getting The Rock in any type of room, it feels like it's a win.
To me, if you're having sports and entertainment, it's like it's a rock bridge in between the two, right? He's got a little bit of both backgrounds, and I think that's going to help a whole lot.
And he knew how to position himself as like one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood there. I mean, the career, the way he's catapulted his career and what he did for the XFL, they just signed that huge deal and what they've been able to do. So yeah, he knows how to do business.
So it got us thinking, if you were going to build a board of directors, who would be on it and what company are we building? Joshua, I can only imagine it's nerdy.
Why you gotta hate?
I'm just saying.
She's not wrong.
You're not wrong. I've got a startup investment firm. That's what I'm running here. And these are the people on my board of directors. So we've got Shaquille O'Neal, which I think is very much like The Rock, where you get that blend of entertainment, where you have.
Why does that sound so familiar, Joshua? You might get sued for that one.
No, we're not. This is good promo, good pub. A guy who understands how sports works, like all the things go on, but he's also done really well for himself in finding companies where a partnership or an investment has been really profitable. He's made a ton of money outside of sports and outside of broadcasting because of what he's done as a business person. Then I've got Serena Williams on there. A lot of people don't know she's very similar way. Somebody who knows how to identify a diamond in the rough. She has done the work to invest in over 60 companies, many of them female-owned. This is something that is of benefit because she is out here thinking outside of the box, and I feel like having a diverse group of people is always beneficial, especially when it comes to the dollars. Magic Johnson, we know what this man's got going. He's got a little bit of everything going, from sports to software. He knows how to identify, develop, invest in businesses, create the partnerships. So again, another athlete, another big name, another person who maybe doesn't say a lot on Twitter, but does know how to handle himself in front of the press. Somebody you want to have around, of course, the GOAT himself. LeBron
Shocker.
James. No, don't do the shocker thing, because if it is one thing about LeBron James, as a guy who became a pro as a teenager, a dude who did not go to college, that man is smart as all hell, and he knows how to partner with businesses. You remember Blaze Pizza? That thing took off. He had a steak.
So good.
It's so good. Steak in beats, right? Like, this was a dude who understood where to be and how to be there, and he's also frugal in his personal life. And I know people will look at him and be like, frugal, what do you mean? The dude ain't paying for data on his phone. He's not paying for the Spotify without the ads. He's going to be the guy that makes sure that we're running lean and mean.
That's a really good board.
What about your board of directors?
All right, I'm gonna go. It's not an investment firm. It's more of like just a lifestyle brand. Have you guys heard of? It's called Babbling Brook LLC.
Wow.
I've been finding a way to really work Babbling Brook into somewhere, and I thought maybe I'll give this one a shot.
Our way is better. That's
Our way is better.
Is it better?
Hey, it's that simple. All right. I have an eclectic group here because they have their hands in a little bit of everything. How about Maria Sharapova? Have you guys heard of the sunscreen Supergoop?
Yes, I love it. I'm obsessed
One of the
with
most top-selling sunscreens. I had no idea that she was behind that. So Maria Sharapova, former tennis star. She's also married to Enrique Iglesias there, so there's that connection. She's not married to him.
Kornikova.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, not that. But she has her own sunscreen line. So we like to sell sunscreen and skincare. Then we have David Beckham. David Beckham, he has his hands in a bunch of different things. He's also married to Victoria Beckham, so he has this cachet about him.
Extremely good looking.
And one of the best dressed men I have ever seen.
Yeah, that too, which that matters.
It does.
Yes, that matters. And speaking of guys that know how to dress, how about Tom Brady?
Sure.
He has his clothing line. He was married to Giselle Bundchen, and so he is kind of like crossed over into the supermodel entertainment side as well, kind of like David Beckham.
His face structure changed, didn't it? It looks a little bit more modelish than when he came in the league.
It sure did, but I don't, maybe he just lost some weight or did some gua sha. Maybe.
Some
gua sha.
I don't know what the hell
You haven't heard of gua sha? You take the... Just look it
with
up.
the
Ask
stone?
Maddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the stone.
Maddie has one of those.
Yeah, ask
I didn't know
Maddie.
that's what it was called.
Then we got Jimmy Butler. He's got his own coffee.
Sure.
Coffee, so
you don't know what
he would
Jimmy
be in the
Butler
mix.
you're going to get from a year-to-year basis, though.
No, that is true.
A wild card means, though, that he's going to be creative.
Fresh ideas.
Yeah.
We
no
love
doubt.
that. And finally,
doubt.
Russell Westbrook, because he has his own fashion line as well. So very interesting group. But when you're creating a lifestyle brand, you need just your hands in a bit of everything.
Could be the best looking board of directors ever assembled as well.
I'm not going to lie to you.
That was
absolutely walk
that
in
was
and
not a
he looks the
coincidence.
part for sure. Mine's going to be on boating. Yep.
Of course.
It's athlete's fleet instead of athlete's foot here.
That's cute.
Russell Wilson actually has his own private dock, so he's going to know the docking rules and regulations and things like that, which is very important. Rafael Nadal has an $8.5 million super yacht that looks like a catamaran in Mallorca. It's a beauty. Yep, right
Wow.
there. Yeah,
Whoa.
wow is right. I think that he knows a thing or two on how to spend money on the right kind of boats. Another one on that list for you is Gronk, because we saw how he was able to deal with the trophy and merchandise around the water. You know, was very, even though intoxicated, he was able to like really hold it down.
Yeah.
So there's some responsibility there. A little bit of a wild card, but you know, hey, what are we gonna do? Sue Bird, she's gonna be really the numbers cruncher. I think she'd be really good at that. And Allison Felix, obviously the most decorated Olympian in track and field history, but she also is invested in a plant-based protein company. She serves as an advisor to a fitness technology startup, has started developing a real estate portfolio. So we're talking numbers with Allison Felix. She's going to be our number.
Very well-rounded group, Dani K.
By the way.
No, she's really fun to watch there. But
group.
look at us.
Look at us.
Very eclectic
Who'd have
group.
thought?
Who would have thought?
Not me.
No.
And honestly, we could use your super group on our boating.
Do you want to work on a deal?
Yeah.
We can make it happen.
We can make it happen.
So
As if we really are
CEOs
running this
getting
company.
together.
Would you
my
like
group,
to
though.
invest
Damn,
would you like to
in Babbling Brook, LLC?
I mean, we got the money over here. My people all invest in
What's
everything.
my slogan again? We do things better.
And
The best, yeah, something like that.
Our way is better. Our way is better at
Brook's got
Babbling
it.
Brook. You heard it here first, people. All right, I think
throw
we
a
have
few
time.
dollars either way.
It's so hot in here. Listen,
It
I think
is.
we have
I'm
time
burning up.
for a quick trip across the Rallyverse. We got the Nuggets. They're taking on the Pacers. Can you give us a nugget of information on Indiana, Mr. Fun Facts?
Yeah, there's a highway in Indiana named after one of the best R&B songwriters and producers of all time, Kenneth Babyface Edmonds. When you're driving through Indianapolis, you will see the signs on the side of the highway.
I don't know why
Fun
you're
fact
mad at
for
your
you.
note cards over
Fun
that.
facts
but it was a
here.
good-
I lived in Indianapolis for a little while. I lived in the state of Indiana, so, you know. learned
I was
a
going
lot.
to say St. Elmo's has a great shrimp cocktail. That was going to be what I was going to give you.
Prime 47 over St. Elmo's in terms of Indy steakhouses,
I'm
by
just
the way.
telling you. And also, if it's too cold in Indy, you can get through the entire city
Through tunnels.
It's
That's
It's
amazing. They should have that here in Chicago.
These
Do
are
they
all. Yeah,
There-
they
I think
absolutely.
there's an
They have the underground
tunnel
one?
system here, and I think there's a Dunkin' Donuts in it.
There actually is a whole underground in Vegas as well, but that's
interesting.
someone looked
The
that up 'cause
more
that's
you
kinda crazy.
know, everybody.
that?
It's been a fun day here on the Rally. Dani K, always great to
Thanks
have
for
you
having me,
on.
guys.
We'll see you tomorrow.